Is MAGA a cult? Why do people join the MAGA movement? How can people escape, and what could we do to possibly help them escape? And what's going to happen when their leader dies? Let's look into that. Welcome to Trevor's Tarot, Astrology, and Spirituality. First off, a huge thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody who likes, watches, comments on the videos, shares the videos, promotes the channel in any way. And if you've given money to the channel through the super thanks, buy me a coffee or Venmo, huge thank you. Um, so is MAGA a cult? So there's certainly different definitions of cults, but we're just going to take this as like following a belief system that they're not allowed to question. That's kind of our definition that we're going to work from. So is MAGA a cult? See, I see the Eight of Swords in the scrying bowl, which is about confinement. It's mostly mental confinement. It could be physical confinement as well, but I think in this case, mental confinement makes sense. It's like people are not allowed to think outside of whatever the leader says. They're not really able to question him. So let's see what the cards can tell us. Yeah, I mean, we get the judgment card. So they're there laying like so the judgment card's about the angel blowing the horn and waking the dead, right? The people in MAGA are metaphorically the dead people. They're laying there. They're not wanting to hear anything. And we get the Queen of Cups. This is about empathy. In this case, the lack of empathy or the lack of being able to communicate. Now, at the same time, they think they're being empathetic. They think that they are helping people by stopping border crossings, for example, or deporting people. They somehow think that this is helping people. It's not helping the people that are being, kidnapped and taken out of the country. It's helping who they viewed as their people, which is also a pretty telltale sign that you're in a cult. We get the Hierophant, the church, the courts, and the government. And here, the people in MAGA are pretty defiant against court rulings that go against them. They think that there's something wrong with the judges, not wrong with the laws, or there's something wrong with the laws, something wrong with the judges. There's not something wrong with the things they're trying to do. They're also very quick to blaspheme the church. For example, Trump tweeted out a picture of him dressed as the Pope. People on the MAGA side thought it was humorous and funny, but it's really, blaspheming the church. And a lot of them will claim to be Christians, born again Christians. Some of them are more extreme, call themselves Christian nationalists. These are just codes, again, for we belong to this group and you don't, which again is a telltale sign of a cult. With the Chariot card, they're unable to move forward on their own. So this is the before tarot. So they're just unable to move forward on their own. They can't really even make a decision without being told what that decision should be. We get justice at the center of the reading. So for whatever reason, they feel like they have been wronged. And that's what keeps them close knit together as a group. They feel like society has wronged them. Society's the reason that they're poor. Immigrants are the reason they're poor. Immigrants are the reason that they don't have everything that they need. Immigrants are the reason they didn't get that job. Immigrants are the reason that, their children are gay, bisexual, or transgendered. They'll blame everything on somebody else, when in reality, the only people that are to blame are either themselves, or in some cases, there's actually nothing wrong. They've just been convinced that there is wrong because of the belief system that this cult has created. The Nine of Pentacles, they know if they stick together that they'll feel good about themselves and they'll have everything they need. And they can't really go outside of their cult for any sort of uh, guidance, right? Because the people that aren't in the cult know that it is a cult. They don't think it's them themselves, they don't think of this as being a cult, but that's what it is. You're the King of Wands, these passionate messages coming forward, please, that they hear, they take in, the Alex Jones of the world when they're talking about Sandy Hook being, a staged event. They believed all that. They believe the government's out to take their guns away. They believe all these lies because they're told with such passion and vigor by the people that are inside the cult and the people that are in the upper echelons of the cult. And the strength that combines them, this belief system that combines them, is very strong. It's hard for them to imagine a world without being part of this cult. And the last card we get is the Ten of Swords, which is about complete and utter downfall. And people are already experiencing this. They're losing family members and friends because people don't want to be associated with somebody that's in this cult. So ultimately, judgment is coming, justice is coming, and that's going to lead to their downfall. But in the meantime, they're the ones that are comfortable passing the judgment. They think their system of justice is correct, and they think we're the ones that aren't in the cult are the ones that are about to experience the downfall. That's not the way it's going to play out, though. All the lies and all the passion that go against justice and go against the church, they're willing to believe because they'll just change what the church doctrine is in their head. Help others before helping, or help yourself before helping others. All these sayings and belief systems, they'll just get perverted and destroyed because they need to be surrounded by people that believe the same thing as them. They're not able to grow as individuals. This is going to be something society is really going to have to deal with in the future. They feel strength when they're within their group. Outside of their group, they're very scared. And they feel like they have everything they need as long as they're inside their group. But again, outside of their group, they're very scared. This is the way it is. So yeah, I mean, MAGA is a cult. So here's the emperor abusing the power of the presidency, in this case, abusing power to get people to come along. And the power that he's abusing is the truth. The truth. Immigrants didn't take your jobs. Immigrants aren't why you're poor. Immigrants aren't why your children don't like you. All of these things. It's inevitable that something big is going to happen and the thing is going to come crashing down and they're going to be left there wounded in battle with the Page of Swords. So eventually this is going to come crashing down. It's just a matter of when and how and whether what we can do in the meantime to perhaps help people that we know make sure this cult doesn't do more damage, even if they're a part of it. So why do people join the cult to begin with? Why do people join MAGA to begin with? What's that about? Why are people joining MAGA to begin with? I think it's this naive belief that they will rise to the level of what they perceive as admiration and wealth of their leader. And I think it's also in part of they can't take responsibility for their own lives. So they push the responsibility onto others. Yeah, they join the cult because they can't move forward. There's nothing going for them in life to allow them to move forward with the chariot card. Like the movement of their life has been halted. Whether that means they're stuck in a job that they don't like, that they have to work another 20 years until retirement, something along those lines, or they're stuck living in a geographic location that they see changing before their eyes and they don't want to change with it. So therefore, there's no forward momentum. Yeah, they're expecting to get wealthy off of this. They really honestly think that Donald Trump is going to bring wealth to the country. This is the slowest moving knight in the deck. The money is not coming anytime soon. And perhaps that might help people escape. It's because they found some partnerships, through messaging boards on the internet, through rallies, through getting to know other people that are parts of this. It's like they found a sense of belonging that they hadn't had before. Yeah, it's about circles of support. They feel supported in their belief systems, even though they know their belief systems aren't probably right. I think most of them aren't that delusional to where I think most of them know that Donald Trump isn't that great of a president. I think most of them know that, but they'll never be able to admit it because they're stuck in this circle of support where everybody believes the same thing. And if you go against it, then you're out. It's like the flat earthers, right? The people that go to these flat earth conferences, you know, they're there so that they feel like they're not crazy, even though their belief that the earth is flat is easily disproved. You can disprove it just by holding two things up and looking at the shadow of them. But um, that's why they're there, is because they want to be amongst people that believe the same thing that they believe. They saw this as they think the world is at like this crossroads. Like they feel like there's this attack on traditional masculinity and what it means for even women to be subservient to their husbands. And some women agree with this concept. And this is what it's about. It's like they feel like this is being attacked because, other people want to go about and live their lives not according to their rules. It's like our rules or we're being attacked. That's how they feel. Yeah, they're coming from a place where they're feeling isolated and alone. That doesn't necessarily mean they are isolated and alone. They very much could be in a family unit that believes the same thing, and the family's the thing that's isolated and alone. Yeah, the seeds were planted that convinced them that their life isn't their responsibility, that the way their lives have turned out is because others inhibited their growth, their potential. So that's why, a lot of the MAGA folks are not very well educated. Even if they have college degrees, they're probably not using them in the jobs that they're working. They probably don't, consume a large amount of news. They probably don't read. I'm being overly generalized here. Obviously, there are some that probably do, but I think overall, the seeds have been planted that they're not responsible for the reason why they're not in a 5 bedroom, 4 bath house with a swimming pool out back. And it's because of the immigrants that took their jobs. It's because of other people taking the wealth away from the country. When in reality, it's just others have either worked harder or they were born privileged. The Queen of Swords. It's the only place where they can be where their logic makes sense because their logic is actually illogical. Their reasoning makes no sense outside of the scope of the cult. And then ultimately, the charisma, if you wish, or the adoration of the wealthy man, in this case, Donald Trump, this is my card for him. That's why they joined, is because they thought that they could have that lifestyle. And that really, the reason they don't have that lifestyle is because of other people's faults. So they had no forward momentum in their life. They think the world's at a crossroads and things are changing that are going to attack their social structures. And then that's reinforced by the abuse of power of Donald Trump coming in and telling them that's exactly what's going on. Then the seed has been planted that their lives would be better if certain groups of people weren't in the country. And those groups of people are the ones that are attacking the foundation of what they view. And so they're willing to create these unlikely partnerships with other people that they barely know and hold the same beliefs with. It's also because they find circles of support. There aren't many people outside of the cult that are willing to listen to the ideas of Donald Trump. Again, their reasoning is considered logical inside that group, even though it is completely unreasonable and is nothing but a logical fallacy after logical fallacy. They also have some hope that somehow their lives are going to be improved and they are going to get money, wealth, prestige. And what led them there was this feeling of being isolated and alone. Underneath, we get being wounded in battle, like the male ego being destroyed because, all of a sudden their daughter makes more money than them, right? Or the woman across the street makes more money than them. These are the things that they can't handle. And we get the Six of Cups, the next generation. In their minds, they're worried about the next generation. They just don't actually realize that they're probably one of the most selfish groups of people to be on the planet. So they'll constantly defend themselves and they'll even attack justice if need to. So that's why you see them sympathize with people like Kyle Rittenhauser and Rittenhouse and the people who murdered George Floyd. This will be the next thing. I have a feeling that'll be for another reading, but um, they're the ones that were blaming George Floyd for his own death, right? Okay, so what could we do to help people escape this cult, if anything? Want this deck. What can we do to help people escape this cult? I think the key is education, but it has to be presented in a way. Like they really do need to be deprogrammed. It's definitely a very scary time. What can we do to help them? Now, some of them are going to get out of the cults by themselves. Some of them, it took a pretty jolting thing, like the January 6th event and going to jail before they were all pardoned, for example. That led some people away. They have to be presented with a choice. And I don't think they think there is a choice, the Two of Swords. They have to be convinced that it's better for the betterment of their children and grandchildren. So it's like, the Republican senator from Ohio years ago, Rob Portman, I think was his name, was against same-sex marriage until his son came out as gay, and then all of a sudden he was for it. Like that change of view. And it'd be just nice if people were just decent human beings to start with and didn't need a turning point. But they're going to need these turning points. So it's going to really be up to their children, I think, is how they get out. They have to be seen that the cult itself is in a downward trajectory and the world is moving on whether they want them to or not. The world is changing. We're not going to go backwards. Got to eliminate the source of toxicity and mis and disinformation with the devil card and the environment around that needs to go away. We need to like they need to be shown that justice actually is fair and balanced and that what they're being told about the courts making decisions against Donald Trump isn't true, that these court rulings are completely consistent with everything else that's gone on for the last 100 years, and they need to be given hope. They need something to look forward to. They need something that nobody stops dreaming regardless of your age, right? You still have dreams and aspirations. They might be personified in others at some point, but there needs to be something for them to look forward to, something to aspire to. They need a new leader, right? They need a new partner is going to come forward, I think is what's going to happen. Someone who speaks eloquently and tells the truth that they can trust. But they need to also go through this period of loss. It's not going to happen until after Donald Trump is dead. It just isn't. Yeah. The Five of Swords. They need to realize that they're the ones wounded in battle and that everybody else is the one victorious. So they need to be shown that there's choices, that justice really is fair and balanced, and that if they continue on this path, they're the ones that are going to be left wounded in battle. And somebody new needs to come forward and show them the way of how justice has been perverted by the cult and show them that there is forward movement in which everybody can kind of proceed. The environment around the toxicity needs to be removed, as does their leader. Now, I mean, naturally removed, not physical harm or anything. That that needs to go away. That way they can have hope. And I think their children is the ones that are going to provide the hope. Underneath, yeah, they need a new beginning. They need to realize that their thinking was ill and accept that. That's going to be hard for most of them. I don't think most of them will succeed. And the giving and receiving of money, they need to, yeah, the giving and receiving of money, they need to realize they didn't get ahead because of Donald Trump. In fact, they need the ultimate downfall of Donald Trump to happen. They need this to happen to Donald Trump. That's what has to happen for things to move on. Now there are those that are, maybe a little bit softer involved in the cult that can be helped. And remember, the cult's only made up of 30% of people. It's not a majority. It just feels that way some days. Okay, so what's going to happen after their leader dies? What happens after Donald Trump dies? What happens to the MAGA movement? What happens to the MAGA movement for Donald? I think there'll be a period of mourning. I think there'll be a period of disbelief. There might even be some conspiracy theories about how he died popping up. Some of the cult will survive, but I think most of it goes away. Let's see what the cards say. Yeah, they're going to feel an immense sense of loss, just an immense sense of loss. And they're going to feel, they're going to viscerally feel it. Because in some ways they have um, made him like a godlike figure to where, his death seems like it's impossible. A lot of them are going to spend a lot of time in reflection and thinking about what it is this all means. That's going to be the key to why some of them leave the cult. It'll be the end of a cycle. MAGA will continue, but it won't be the same. It'll be a lot less powerful. We'll start to hear empathetic messages again. The people in the cult will start to hear these stories of these people walking all the way from Venezuela to Mexico to cross the border because they're scared for their children's lives. And they'll be able to hear those and not think, oh, this person's coming to take my job. It's like all of a sudden that noise gets broken down. But it's going to be a big shakeup in their lives. At the center of the reading's the tower. His death is going to be something that tears down the structure of MAGA, and it's not going to be pretty, and it's not going to be easy, and it's going to probably be a pretty scary moment in the US for a couple months at least, to where we're going to question our security. And the environment around us are the children, again, talking about how they're better off without Donald Trump. This choice is going to have to be made on whether they accept what happens or they don't. Fiery messages coming forward about exactly everything that he did that was criminal for entertainment purposes only. And they're going to realize that they have everything they need without him. A lot of them, don't get me wrong. I think that, of the 30% that are in the cult now, 20% of that 30% will stay in the cult. So 6% will be left. So something along those lines. So it's going to be a huge loss to them. It's going to fundamentally shake up their belief system. But ultimately, most of them are going to come out on the other side realizing they have everything they need. They're going to have to make some choices because their system is going to be totally destroyed. The structure is going to go down. It's going to be that end of a cycle. And the question is, do they make the choice to leave this movement, or do they stick with it? Now, some politicians are going to stick with it, which is why it's going to collapse further, because those politicians don't fit the bill that they like. So they'll be considered like false prophets almost. Fiery messages about the things that he's done in the past will finally be heard. The harm that he's caused, that meaning Donald Trump, will finally be heard. Their children will finally be heard when they talk about the harm that Donald Trump has caused. And they will go through a period of self-reflection. Now, many of them, I think, will come out of it, but some of them won't. Here's the Donald Trump himself at the base. Their circles of support of money. What are they going to do to them? They're going to walk away from them. So after Trump dies, I think MAGA really does go away. I think that's just the way things happen. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.